And I'm sorry the time frame. We're just awaiting the President will be here in about 15 minutes or so.
So hello everyone, and I would like to start thanking Congressman Pittenger for the invitation to contribute to this forum and this discussion, and to bring my experience as a member of the European Parliament and as a politician from a country that is a parliamentary republic, as Italy it is. So for me, parliamentary cooperation is a very important and fundamental issue for strengthening our countries and like-minded countries, especially on the important topics that we have discussed today. It is always a pleasure for me to participate to this forum. As I said, an important opportunity to discuss and exchange views on crucial topics such as security and defense. So the Parliamentary Intelligence Security Forum has for long offered high-quality debates among people from many different backgrounds. It is on this premise that the title of this panel, so Enhancing Cooperation of Parliaments, Best Practices, is based. Cooperation between people and politicians from different nations, between parliaments, between governments, and so on, as a valuable asset to address the challenges that a globalized world is posing to us. I personally believe that dialogue is the basis of everything that concerns everyday life, and especially when it comes to politics. Dialogue should be a fundamental component of any organization, from the smallest to the highest level of international organization. As far as my personal experience is concerned, and I'm going to try to bring the perspective of an elected member of the European Parliament. I've been there for almost 8 years so far, and I can give you, I'm going to try to give you concrete examples of how cooperations between different nations, organizations, and parliamentarians could help improving decision making to face geopolitical challenges, from foreign affairs to trade, defense, and very important, our economy. And also, since July 2019, I have also the opportunity to lead as a chairman one of the 8 political factions in the European Parliament, gathering together more than 70 parliamentarians coming from 10 different European nations, all united under a common vision about the future of Europe that should be focused on a cooperation amongst like-minded countries based on developing common policies to improve our citizens' conditions, guaranteeing our people's security, tackling illegal immigration, protecting our common Christian roots and culture, and creating growth and prosperity. Of course, even within our group, so between so many parliamentarians, there are different positions on certain issues, but this does not affect the final objectives mentioned above, and on most occasions a solution is reached through open and inclusive dialogue. Having to deal with people from different backgrounds on a daily basis broadens and improves views on many issues that may be more or less sensitive for someone. As a leader of the Identity and Democracy faction in the European Parliament, I have the right to participate into the COP, the Conference of Presidents, the political body responsible for organizing the work of the European Parliament and legislative planning, and much more. The COP is composed of the various leaders of political factions present in the European Parliament, both majority and opposition, and will basically provide an excellent platform for political dialogue and confrontation. In a democratic but complex and sui generis organization as the European Union, the constant, structured, and frank dialogue between the different political factions is fundamental in order to guarantee a smooth and efficient functioning of the political institution. Unfortunately, there are several examples in the recent past that show how this modus operandi sometimes doesn't work or is impossible to be applied at the European level. Still, in the European Parliament sphere, a pragmatic example that reflects the topic of this panel and the importance of the parliamentary dialogue are the delegations that we have in the European Parliament, which are official groups of MPs who maintain and deepen relations with the parliaments of non-EU countries, regions, and also international organizations. In this way, the delegations act as a parliament's main link with other legislative bodies, both inside and outside the EU. Currently, there are 44 delegations, just to make you understand the importance of these relations, and they are then developed into parliamentary committees and interparliamentary assemblies. So far, during my 8 years serving as a member of the European Parliament, I had the opportunity to be part of 2 of these delegations, pretty important. The first one, the delegation to the EU-Serbia Stabilization and Association Parliamentary Committee, dealing with one of the most important geopolitical areas for the European Union, that are the Western Balkans, and the delegations to the EU-ASEAN Joint Parliamentary Committee, strengthening cooperation and common understanding with parliamentarians from this nation with the aim of creating win-win opportunities for our countries and people. When we look at the complex structure of the European Union, another very good example of cooperation between parliamentarians happens during the continuous exchange of information and ideas between same political faction MPs sitting in the European Parliament and in the national parliaments. MPs, such as myself, deal with issues that are more European and international, while MPs in national parliaments are focused mostly on national issues. However, since almost 17% of the national legislation in the European Union comes from EU regulations and directives, constant cooperation between the European Parliament and national levels is fundamental to avoid mistakes, trying to make the best of European cooperation. That's why once a year, representatives from all the 27 national parliaments are invited to Brussels for a common plenary session where we discuss the most urgent issues for the European people. The dialogue between the European and national level is very important to coordinate and to face important challenges, such as the development and management of the Recovery and Resilience Plan, the European Fund created 1 year ago to relaunch the recovery of EU member states after the COVID-19 pandemic. The experience has taught us well how cooperation can be useful in addressing common issues and challenges in a globalized world. Without an efficient cooperation, things get complicated and we are not able to give concrete responses to our citizens' problems. Unfortunately, I have seen this happening too many times in Italy and Europe during the last 15 years, when we had to face existential threats such as the 2008 financial crisis, the consequent Eurozone debt crisis, and last but not least, the immigration crisis in 2015. We are also facing in the last month a scenario in Europe that has changed. Politicians are understanding that tackling vital problems through parliamentarians' cooperation, such as illegal immigration, is a matter of security and defense from external attacks and threat to the European Union. Today, Europe is in the spotlight for weeks over the recent developments on the EU borders with Belarus. Dictator Lukashenko has launched a full-blown hybrid war against the European Union, in Poland and the Baltic countries specifically. For weeks, the borders of these member states have been under siege by thousands of irregular migrants used as weapons by the Belarusian regime. This situation is unacceptable, with Lukashenko's regime using human lives to attack the border of EU as well as NATO countries. Also, in this scenario, we can find a good example that perfectly represents the importance of international cooperation between international institutions and nations. Only united we can effectively deal with external threats to our countries. Another important issue where cooperation is key is cybersecurity. We discussed it today. One of the biggest challenges of the new millennium that must be addressed with commitment and focus. In the era of hybrid wars based on propaganda, information wars, and cyber espionage, NATO countries should have as one of their main objectives the strengthening of their own cybersecurity and cooperation with allies in this area. The data of our citizens and strategic companies are potential prey for foreign actors as well as cyber criminals. International cooperation and parliamentarians' cooperation will make our network more secure by protecting our data from the wrong hands. Finally, again, in the security sphere, cooperation is key in the international fight against terrorism. The near complete elimination of ISIS during the last year was an important step in the international fight against Daesh and related terrorist groups. However, today several Islamic terrorists around the world remain active, and unfortunately ISIS is not the only active international terrorist organization. The fight against terrorism must be carried out on a global level to optimize results, and a good example is the cooperation between intelligence services in preventing attacks in our countries. I'm going to conclude saying that these meetings allow like-minded people from all over the world to get to know each other, exchange ideas and thoughts, network and learn. Parliamentary cooperation at the international level is a very important and powerful tool, and each of us will take home new knowledge and ideas that will be useful in advancing our domestic policies debates. I would like to thank again my friend Congressman Pittenger and the Parliamentary Intelligence Security Forum for this wonderful event, this wonderful opportunity, and hope to see you again in Europe in a COVID-free scenario very soon. Thank you very much again, and God bless you.
You're a terrific, Marco.
Thank you.